Hello, I'm Stanislav Shekshnia, Professor and a Fellow at INSEAD Corporate Governance Center. I would like to present today findings of a 3-year research project that we have accomplished last year. Little is known about board chairs, although these people are very important organizational actors. They sit atop of the most important decision-making body in the company, the board of directors. To fill in the gap, we decided to organize a cross-country European research project looking at what chairs actually do in 8 European countries. In the process of this research, we have interviewed 100 chairs and 100 key counterparts of the board leaders, shareholders, directors, and CEOs. I'm very grateful to the international team of researchers who conducted this work with passion and rigor. Some of the findings of our research have been published as 2 INSEAD Corporate Governance Center reports and a Harvard Business Review article. The whole research will be presented in the upcoming book by Palgrave, Leading from the Chair Practices Across Europe. Today, I would like to present some of the key findings of the project. The first thing that we identify is that in all European countries, board chairs play 3 key roles. They lead the board, they represent the board in relationship with shareholders, and they represent the board in relationship with management and the CEO. Sometimes they take on some other auxiliary roles, like representing the board or the company in relationship with customers, vendors, or regulators. But the core work of the chair is about 3 stakeholders: the board, the shareholders, and the CEO. We found that the cultural differences are a lesser differentiator than other factors in the chair's work. The company characteristics, such as ownership, the cycle, the sector, the board characteristics, such as size, composition, and private relationship between the members, and the chair's characteristics differentiate what chairs do more than the cultural differences between European countries. We also realized that in Europe, effective chairs overcome cultural norms when it is required. They go against the culture when the board needs require that. We also realized that they possess very similar personal traits and they make similar mistakes. Today, I would like to talk about key traps that chairs face and how effective board leaders overcome them. Most of the mistakes come from the fact that chairs, or at least the major part of the chairs, used to be the CEOs. They continue executive behavior in the boardroom, even though their role and the conditions have changed. So what are the 5 traps that a chair has to avoid? Executive behavior, trying to build a team, sweating the boardroom, looking for perfect metrics, and trying to be the CEO boss. Let me take them one by one. Executive behavior. As I said, most of our respondents used to be CEOs, and many of them do not adjust when they become board chairs. They continue to dominate discussion, they continue to occupy the central stage, they continue to look for solutions, and they continue to act as the most important person in the team. It does not resonate well with the directors who consider themselves independent, professional, mature individuals. Effective chairs understand this, and they practice leadership, which some of them call leadership from the side. They facilitate and enable the work of the board. Some chairs continue to operate as CEOs, and in operating as a CEO, they try to build a team out of the board. It does not resonate well. Many directors don't want to be treated as members of the chair's team. They want to be treated as independent professionals. Effective chairs understand that, and they practice what Harvard Business School professor Amy Edmondson calls teaming. They engage directors, they enable them, and they encourage them rather than telling them what to do. Important mistake that ineffective chairs make is concentrating too much on what happens in the boardroom and forgetting what happens outside of the boardroom. We found that 80-20 rule applies to the work of the chair as it does apply to many other areas of human activity. Only 20% of board effectiveness is dependent on what actually happens during the board meeting. Another 80% is defined by what chair and other board members do outside of the board room. Effective chair concentrate on 4 components of effective outside of the boardroom work. They plan the board cycle, they plan the board agenda, they plan their interventions, they prepare, they use committees to prepare board decisions, they pay a lot of attention to the board materials that's supplied to the board, they actually own board materials, and of course they prepare themselves. They decide on how to open the board meeting, they decide who should go first, they decide how to allocate time between management presentations and discussions, and they plan on their own intervention. They follow up on the board meeting decisions, and of course they communicate with the board members between the board meetings. Another mistake that ex-CEO turned chairs make is trying to look for perfect metrics to measure board effectiveness. Some of them engage strategy consultants to develop those metrics, but those efforts rarely bring any results. The reason for that is the board is a very complex body that makes decisions that will have a very long-term impact on the company and its environment. As one of the respondents told us, I'm not looking for perfect metrics because it's impossible to find metrics that will tell me about the effectiveness of board in real time. What I'm looking for excellent inputs. And he said that he tries to evaluate the quality of 5 key inputs: the board composition, the board agendas, the board materials, the board minutes, and the board process. If these components are in place, then the probability that the outcomes of the board work will be excellent is quite high. The last but not least is a mistake when the board chair tries to act as a CEO boss. It seems to be logical. In the system of vertical hierarchy that all CEOs are used to work with, everybody has a boss. So who should become the CEO boss? Of course, the chair. But this is a wrong logic. Yes, the CEO needs to have a boss, but this boss has to be the board of directors rather than the chair. The board has to provide what the boss provides to a subordinate: challenge, support, advice, mentoring, and feedback. But this feedback, this mentoring, this advice, and this challenge and support should come from the whole board rather than one chair. The role of the chair is to organize that it takes place. Thank you for your attention, and more in the book.